This video is going to go into details about how I'm planning to modify my Brompton to maximize the advantages of correct gearing. I have all the details about the current configuration for the Brompton Interceptor in the book. What I'm going to talk about is my configuration for the Brompton Disruptor, which is going to be the next version of my Brompton bike. In order to understand what's going on, I will have to look into two little Honda mini bikes. I love these mini motos. They are very cute bikes, but the point I'm trying to drive home in this case is the difference between the two bikes, which, as you can see, it has a tiny 124cc motor. This is the Honda DAX. In fact, it's probably easier to look at it on the Honda website, and you can see the little motor, little engine, 124cc. And here is the Honda Monkey, another incredibly cute little retro bike from the 70s or even earlier, and you see the same tiny engine. Here is the engine. The way the bikes are configured is different, but the engine, the power source, is the same. And the reason they sell them is not just because they look different, but because functionality is drastically different. This little DAX bike has a semi-automatic transmission. I'm not entirely clear if that just means that you have no clutch, but it's certainly an easier ride than the other one. The Monkey is completely manual, and also the DAX has 4 gears, whereas the Monkey has 5. That means the Monkey has an added 25% of gear range, more or less. So let's look at the actual website data here. The engine is 124cc air-cooled 4-cylinder for the Monkey, and for the DAX also the exact same thing. There is no difference. Now let's look at the transmission. The transmission is a 4-speed so-called semi-automatic, whatever that means. That's not the case with the Monkey. Monkey is a 5-speed manual, and you know that the fuel economy of manually shifted cars is typically noticeably better than the automatic transmission alternative, although there have been a lot of improvements in this area, mostly by automatic gears or automatic systems having a lot more gears. So you can now get cars with 5, 6, sometimes even more gears, which certainly helps, but having an automatic means that your fuel economy is going to go down. And what fuel economy means is, in the case of a bicycle, is energy efficiency. And here is the biggest amazing difference between the two bikes, that the Honda Monkey is rated for 123 miles per gallon fuel efficiency. At the same time, the DAX, using the exact same engine, has only 107 miles per gallon. So if you buy a Monkey, you may have to learn how to shift manually, but you'll gain a whopping 50% of energy efficiency. My bike is based on the 6-speed Brompton. This was the original 6-speed Brompton, our widest range of gears. What does this mean? This is the 6-speed Brompton. You have a 3-speed hub, and you have these 2 cogs on the outside, and 3x2 ends up with 6 speeds, except that you don't really sense much of a difference by shifting here. I mean, there is a little bit. It's maybe 10%, 15%, some very small nuance difference. So it's really not even a speed of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, but more like 1, 2, 3, A and 1, 2, 3, B, whether you are connecting to the hub via the larger or the smaller cog. And in my case, I actually removed both of them. I describe in the book, I believe, in detail what I did, but I only have a single cog, and it's not a stock size because I tried to maximize the speed. I wanted to maximize gear inches because, as I mentioned before in videos and in the book as well, this setup, the Brompton Interceptor, as the name suggests, was originally built to outrun anything and everything on the greenway and everywhere where bicycles go, except maybe a big wheel, really high powered electric bike. And so it does that. It does exactly what it was designed to do. But I have noticed that when I tackle uphill, people on the stock electric Brompton are able to keep up with me. even though they have a tiny 36-volt battery with a ridiculously small 250-watt motor, whereas I have a massive 48-volt battery with a motor that is clocked at 700 watt, nearly 3 times what they have. But here is the thing. The reason they can keep up with me, and the reason they also have range comparable to mine, is because the gearing is so much lower. They have the lower gear, what I have removed this thing, and even lower than that, because their front chain wheel is only a 44 or so. Mine is a whopping 62, and what I'm looking to upgrade to is a dual chain ring like you see here. And notice how big the outer ring is and how small the inner ring is. So in my case, I'm going to go from a 60 to a 54 for the larger ring, which is a 10% decrease of gear inches, which are currently at 139. If I deduct 10% of that, I'm going to end up with 125, which is still very fast. It's still as good as almost any road bike on the market. But when I need to climb or accelerate, I would have a 33 option. A 33 option is not a teeny tiny difference like you see here, just a 10-15% change between the size of these two cogs, but rather we are talking about roughly a 40% descent from 54 to 33. And that means I'm going to gain access to those 3 gears in the rear hub connected to a far slower and far more torquey chainring. Here are some other views of the chainring. This is an H&H product. H&H is one of the top brands that makes aftermarket components for the Brompton. And if you install it, a lot of the time at first people just carry a screw or a hook or a glove or something and they switch it over into the smaller chain wheel when they need to climb a serious slope. But at some point, I might start out like that, but at some point I definitely want a professional shifter. Since I removed the dual setup in the rear and I only have one cog or one sprocket, I removed the wire that was going back here. So I have one less wire, which means I can add that back and it's just going to connect to the front. Here is an adapter front shifter just made for the Brompton. And that's the wonderful thing about this brand, at least the steel frame Brompton, that there are so many companies making so many things for it. So you can modify it almost without limit. Another modification that is under consideration, but possibly not even for this year, is to also replace the rear wheel and move from a 3-speed to a 5-speed. The benefit of these 5-speed hubs, which are sold, in this case I'm looking at the bromyplus.com. I'm going to put a link below and you can access all of the items featured in this video just by clicking on the links in the description section. So they sell these wheel sets. I actually only need the rear wheel. For $350, I should be able to get the rear wheel at $250 or maybe even $200. And the bottom line is, if you are only using one cog in the rear, you should have no problem installing a 5-speed hub, which would further increase my gear range. And the bottom line is that in addition to what kind of electric setup you have or how much muscle you have in your legs, your ability to access the proper gear depending upon what you're doing, climbing, descending, racing people on the flats or accelerating, depending upon your ability to all of that technology, you may or may not lose energy efficiency. So getting back to the Honda example, this is a cute bike, but it's never going to win a race against the Monkey, because the Monkey likely with its 5-speed system is going to climb and accelerate better, even if the engine is the same, even if the top speed is the same, although even the top speed might not be the same because this engine is able to drive the wheels with an extra speed which is not available on the DAX. I will have more to say about the new Brompton Disruptor, and you will see on videos how I'm building this new project. But enough said, I consider the correct gearing and acquiring gear range to be of paramount importance. My original project was built just to outrun everyone, and that has been achieved. This little chain wheel has been upgraded to something much bigger, and you can see it in my book and on my videos. I have shown you pictures of it. I have a much bigger gear here, a much smaller cog in the back, and some changes made throughout. But the Disruptor, the next version of my Brompton, is going to have the speed advantage that I already have, but also an excellent ability to climb and accelerate. This is it for the current video. Make sure to like, subscribe, to check out the links below. Visit my shop, and
I'll be back.